Good morning, metalheads and potentially even cinephiles of the internet, and welcome to a brand new, very special episode of the Metal Meltdown. 1 week ago, via the community tab of this channel, I asked you, what do you think is the most metal movie of all time? And you left some pretty interesting answers, some pretty interesting comments, and I have decided that together, as a group, as a team, as a community, we will look at all of these answers and comments, and we will decide once and for all what is the most metal movie or movies, plural, of all time. First up, Sensual Storm 9948 says, Mad Max Fury Road, it's loud, insane, and stupidly violent. There's also a dude playing a flamethrower guitar. An excellent choice for most metal movie of all time, right off the goddamn bat. The Mad Max movies in general are pretty metal, I feel, in vibe, in tone. I mean, it's like a apocalyptic, dystopian action movie taking place in a desert wasteland, people fighting and killing each other, driving fucked up, weird-ass looking cars. Fuel is just as important and valuable as ammunition and water, and there's cults and, weird fucking... There's all kinds of shit. Great series. Really cool. And Fury Road specifically is filled with so many great over-the-top action sequences, and it's honestly really well written. Like, there's a good amount of depth to all of the characters, and you really feel for all of them. Like, they're just put in these aggravating environments and aggravating conditions, and it's just fucking metal as all holy hell. And yes, the flamethrower guitar scene specifically is objectively one of the most metal scenes, like, ever. It's awesome. And so many of those great action scenes, by the way, done with not like a shitload of CGI. Like, God bless that movie. It's fucking awesome. It feels like a giant roller coaster, and I never want to get off of it. Next up, we have Rocknet saying Spinal Tap is the right answer. That does feel and sound right, although I won't say for certain, just because it has been a long time since I really saw this movie or even thought of it. It is a fun movie, if I remember correctly, kind of a rock and roll mockumentary movie, satirizing and parodying and making fun of like classic hard rock and heavy metal bands and that whole kind of scene and shtick from the late 70s going into the 80s. Unironically though, the thing I remember most about anything related to Spinal Tap is probably like that episode of The Simpsons from like, what was it, season 3 or 4 maybe, where Bart goes to see Spinal Tap in concert. If I'm not mistaken, that's the same episode where Bart learns to play guitar, or he tries to learn, and then Otto takes the guitar from him and gets distracted and crashes the school bus or something like that. It's a weird episode. Not as weird as Modern Day Simpsons. Modern Day Simpsons is just off the rails, and also boring, frankly. We're not here to talk about The Simpsons, though. We're here to talk about metal and metal movies. Thank you, Rock, for the comment. Metal Trenches says, frankly, the fact that a movie like The Substance got so many nominations, which is metal as fuck, with the gore and body horror and is already being sampled in the metal songs this year, was enough to make me want to watch. Also, Conan hosted, and he has always been the late-night host that actually supports metal groups. This comment is more about the Oscars rather than it is an answer to the question of what is the most metal movie, but in Metal Trench's defense, I did also talk about the Oscars in the original community post, even if just as a little joke, little bit. So, whatever. Let's talk about The Substance, the movie that he actually does mention, because I have really been wanting to see this movie. I have not seen it yet. I have heard nothing but really great fucking things, and just based on what I have heard, and based on what I have seen from like little clips and little trailers and shit like that, I definitely would probably agree that it's metal as all holy fucking hell. mdragon5536 says Robert Eggers' entire filmography to date, but especially The Witch and The Northman. Absolutely. I will concede I'm not as big of a fan of The Witch as I am of Eggers' other films, but it is still a really cool movie. There's definitely a lot about it that is metal as all holy hell. I really like The Northman. I love Nosferatu and The Lighthouse. I think those two movies are unironically some of the best movies released like in the past maybe 5-10 years or so. Like, I think they're fucking fantastic. Robert Eggers could direct a pile of bricks and find a way to make that fucking exciting. Bradley Thomas 5832 says The Crow for sure, the first one from the 90s. If I'm being honest, I'm not really a huge fan of The Crow in general. I always thought it was a little overrated, but it is a popular movie. It definitely does have things about it that would feel metal. I personally just find it like really fucking corny and lame and silly, but hey, whatever. To each their own. It's all good. Thralls of Metal, specifically Necrotic Nick, says Deathgasm. Yes, an excellent choice. A movie that is about metal, that makes fun of metal, kind of a comedy horror film of sorts, and also is metal itself in a lot of cool, fun ways. I fuck with that. Been a long time since I've seen that too. I'm gonna have to recheck that out. Wolflust9718 says, Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell, City of the Living Dead. It's packed with gnarly gore, practical effects, and hunting atmosphere that I instantly associate with killer old-school death extreme metal. Phantasm also comes to mind for the same reasons. Entombed did utilize the score for the Bridge of the Left-Hand Path, after all. Great choices. I mean, Lucio Fulci is metal as fuck. Quest for Metal says, I'm a cybernetic organism. Living tissue over a metal endoskeleton does have a lot of metal in the movie, you could say, and there's a little monkey emoji thing. I assume you're quoting the Terminator movies. I can't imagine what else that would be from. And yes, Terminator, especially those first two, great movies, also metal as fuck. Anna and I very recently rewatched Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and it's crazy how well that movie holds up. Like, the story and concept, especially as AI becomes more prevalent and powerful, and also the practical effects, and even the CG, like, kind of the liquid Terminator and, like, his glossy metallic sheen, it looks still so good, like, 30, 35 years later. It's awesome. Love that fucking movie. Against the Wickedly Music says, Alien is one of the first movies I think of. The atmosphere, the intensity, the violence, obviously the xenomorph itself, all capped off by Ripley being one of the most badass characters ever. I also immediately thought of 80s sci-fi stuff like Predator and the first two Terminator films. It's hard not to associate riffs and beer with the over-the-top action in those movies. Bonus, The Lord of the Rings, since every black metal band and their grandmas have ripped it off at one point. Agreed with all of this. I mean, the first Alien movie is one of my all-time favorites. I love the vibe, the atmosphere, the look of the film. I still think the xenomorphs look fucking fantastic, although James Cameron did kind of perfect the look with the sequel, Aliens. I'll give him that. Also still a great film, don't get me wrong. Predator's great, I agree with that. Also, definitely The Lord of the fucking Rings. The Lord of the Rings is extremely fucking metal. I mean, quite frankly, you can't have a discussion about what is the most metal movie or series of all time without talking about The Lord of the Rings in some capacity. The Lord of the Rings as a series, as a thing that exists, has inspired rock and metal and heavy bands for ages and ages and ages in ways that we don't have the time to fully dissect and analyze here today, although that could make an interesting topic for a future video. I'm going to keep that in mind. I got a great idea. I'm going to credit you for that when the time comes. Stay tuned. Grim666, that movie with Cannibal Corpse and Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. I wouldn't say that the movie itself is metal, but I will give that scene some credit, that particular scene from that particular movie, because that did introduce tons and tons of people to death metal, to extreme metal, and obviously specifically to Cannibal Corpse, and it does remain kind of a pretty solid, funny, iconic scene all these years later. Some guy who cooks says, I would say Hostel. It's gory, insane, sleazy, and it's pretty awesome. I knew this movie from Ice Nine Kills and Wendigoon's disturbing movie Iceberg, so I was intrigued, and in my opinion, it didn't disappoint. Well said. 110% agreed. CyberBrynhilder1053 says Kill Bill 1 and 2 because it's literally one film split into two parts. It has blood, revenge, swords, and those out-of-society vibes, and Uma Thurman as the bride is metal as fuck. Yes, agreed. Love it. I love the Kill Bill movies, especially Kill Bill 1. It's like build up to one giant, big fucking bloodfest, violent, crazy, also badass, also awesome. Love it. Agreed. I'm with you all the way. Nicholas Aristizable RB3JU says, The Exorcist, it's ominous, thought-provoking, and blasphemous. What else do you need? Agreed. A great movie, one that has held up really well. I mean, I still sometimes quote the little demon girl, your mother sucks cocks in hell. Like, it's just funny. It's great. On top of being scary. This was also one of the first horror movies, like, I really saw. I remember watching it with, like, a high school girlfriend, and she was like, this ain't that scary. But I was a little freaked out by it. Waves in the 5112 says, School of Rock. I mean, it's a fine movie, but, like, is it metal? Like, does it give off, like, a metal vibe? You know, does it have the essence of metal in it? I don't know if I agree with that. Macho Mike says, obviously biased towards Airheads and Wayne's World, but Mad Max Fury Road definitely fits the bill, as does Terminator 2. We've seen a lot of other comments for Mad Max and Terminator 2, so clearly we're all in agreement. Those definitely are at the top of the list. Airheads and Wayne's World, unironically solid choices. Maybe not so much Wayne's World, but it is fun. It's a good movie. It holds up. So we will still mention it. Airheads legit, though. I mean, it has the spirit of metal all through it. It's about a metal band going to extreme lengths to get people to listen to their music, to get people to listen to their demo, and honestly, it's filled with some surprising twists, and it's funny as all holy hell, and it ends on a really fucking cool note. Like, I actually think that that's a great choice and a great movie. Also, everyone go check out Macho Mike's channel, because I reviewed Airheads and Wayne's World with him on his channel. Check that out. Hell yeah. Tails Xavier 5752 says Lost Highway and Freddy vs. Jason. I'm not familiar with Lost Highway. Freddy vs. Jason is an interesting pick. I think that movie gets a bit of a bad rep. I mean, yes, it's not very well written, and the human characters in particular are just awful, and I want them to die, and they're just obnoxious and annoying. But the movie is called Freddy vs. Jason, and when we do get Freddy vs. Jason action scenes, it's kind of fun, you know? Like, it kind of goes hard, you know? It's not going to win an award anytime soon, but, you know, fucking get a six-pack of beer, order some pizza, get some popcorn. It's a good movie to watch with friends on a Saturday night. And also, pretty metal. Metal Encyclopedia says, unironically, The Batman. I'm going to assume you're referring to the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, The Batman. If so, I 110% agree with you. It is also the only Batman movie that I feel is really authentic to who Batman is. That is really authentic to, like, the world of the Batman comics. Like, Gotham looks like Gotham. It's dirty, and it's always raining, and there's violence everywhere. And, sure, Robert Pattinson's younger take on Bruce Wayne is a little, you know, he's got some shit to work out, and maybe he's a little quiet and then sullen, but, like, that's also kind of who a young Batman is. So, like, it works, and I love the neo-noir aesthetic. I love that Batman's, like, actually solving, like, a mystery all throughout the fucking movie. It's awesome. It's metal. When there is action, it's brutal as hell. Great plot twist with the Riddler, tackling, like, the most privileged and the most powerful in society. Metal as all holy hell. Duraldi Weinachskalander 1757 says, for me, it's Malmhouse, mostly because it is about metal and how exactly it can bring great solace and comfort for those in need of joy or self-expression. That, for me, is the essence of metal. I'm not familiar with this movie, but I love the way you've described it, and you know what? Just based on that, I'm inclined to agree. Metal. Crustacean Gregory says, gonna say The Punisher, and that's including the 2017 show, also Ghost Rider. As a fellow Marvel fan, I'm sure you know why I say them. Yes, I do. The Punisher and Ghost Rider have always been extremely fucking metal, and even if their various movie adaptations have not been amazing, they definitely have remained metal within those adaptations. V2 itself says, I feel like the objective answer is Evil Dead. You are objectively correct. That is a great objective answer. Evil Dead is metal as all holy fucking hell. The entire series, not just the first movie, all of it. Metal. Like, with all of these movies, you have gore, violence, great practical effects. You've got weird zombies and mutants and monsters and demons and all kinds of funky creatures. An ancient book made out of human flesh that summons creatures from other dimensions and from hell, and it can send you back in fucking time. And it's awesome. And, like, it can be really funny and goofy in the case of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and it can also actually be real horror, like the Evil Dead remake from 2013, criminally underrated in my opinion, and also Evil Dead Rise. And while we're on the topic, Sam Raimi just consistently makes really metal fucking movies. Like, Drag Me to Hell is an awesome fucking movie. The Quick and the Dead, also awesome. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. You know what? I'll even defend Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I love the style of that movie, and there's a lot about that movie that also is metal as holy fucking hell. Marvel's lame now. Marvel's mid now. Shut up. I dare you to tell me that Doctor Strange possessing his own corpse from another dimension and then using, like, the souls of hell to create, like, a cape and he fights other fucking demons with it. I dare you to tell me that isn't fucking metal. Razor Rex says Heavy Metal from 1981, a very safe choice, but not necessarily an incorrect or bad choice. I mean, it's got a great soundtrack for one. but also it's got all these great little stories all throughout, taking place in a bunch of different environments, and they're all metal in varying degrees. So yeah, I say yeah, fuck with it. I fuck with it big time. Rampantna4289 says Titanic. I don't know if I see it. I guess when the boat splits in half and everyone dies, that's metal. Tragic, horrifying, based on a true story, but metal, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this might be a jokey comment, but assuming that it isn't, I feel like Titanic is a little bit too lovey-dovey, a little bit too beloved by my mom for me to think of it as metal, so, yeah. Nah. Dusty Danny 3327 says, Conan the Barbarian, nothing more metal than swords, battle, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and knocking out camels in one punch. Conan the Barbarian is so stupidly, absurdly metal. Like, almost every single shot from that movie could be used as, like, album artwork for some old school epic doom, epic heavy metal, like, kind of 80s American power metal record. It just reeks of pure metal, old school metal badassery. Saliva1 says, Tetsuo the Iron Man. The film centers on an unnamed Japanese salaryman who wakes up to find pieces of metal sprouting from various parts of his body and becomes haunted by visions of metal-oriented sexual fantasies. I don't know what the fuck that is, but that sounds crazy and it sounds metal as fuck. Agreed. Approved. You're in, Tetsuo. Daked says, Mandy. Hell yes, 100% agreed. I love the visual style of that movie. I love how psychedelic and trippy it is in some parts. I love how, like, brutal and bloody it is in an instance. I think that's Nicolas Cage, acting-wise, one of his best performances. Love the score of that movie as well. Agreed, agreed, agreed. Alright, so most of the other comments are movies that we've already mentioned in some capacity, like more people talking about Deathgasm, more people talking about Terminator, Airheads, Mad Max, The Lord of the Rings, so I think that's a good place to stop with y'all's comments and answers. My turn. We did mention Robert Eggers, but we didn't specifically mention Nosferatu, or at least y'all didn't, so I'm going to. Nosferatu is pure, classic, gothic horror all the way through, with incredible sound and production design and costume design and makeup and cinematography that really makes the entire world of that movie feel real and alive, and it's big and horrifying and it's awesome. In my opinion, at least of the few movies that I saw in 2024, that was the best movie of 2024. We were talking about some comic book bullshit for a while with Batman, Ghost Rider, Punisher. So with that in mind, I also want to bring up Thor Ragnarok, because within the first few minutes of the movie, before the title card even pops up, we have Thor, who is both a space Viking superhero and also an actual Norse god, fighting Surtur and a variety of alien demons on an alien planet, including an alien dragon who appears to have jetpacks instead of wings. Like, I don't know. It was cool, though. Also, Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song plays the whole fucking time. Throughout the rest of the movie, he continues to fight aliens and monsters, and also the literal goddess of death, metal as all holy hell. I'll also throw in the Sweeney Todd movie, which is probably the last good thing that Tim Burton worked on. I mean, he's the demon barber. That's literally what they call him. And he kills people and turns them into fucking meat pies. Also, maybe Oculus. Like, I like the idea of this, like, demon mirror supposedly haunting this family, but like all throughout the movie they provide like logical explanations for everything that has happened and that is happening in the moment as well, which kind of makes you like really think about like, is this mirror actually fucking possessed by a demon? Is it possessing them? Is it magic? Is it evil? Is it whatever? Or are these motherfuckers just fucking crazy? Are they just fucking psychopaths or whatever? Like, that's cool. That sounds like that could be the concept for a King Diamond album. Ooh, here's a good one. Brain Dead, or as it's known in North America, Dead Alive. This was like a horror comedy zombie splatter film made by Peter Jackson, believe it or not, in the pre-Lord of the Rings days, and it has some absolutely outrageous gory violence. It's corny, it's fun, it's over the top, metal as all holy hell. And you know, I feel like that's pretty good. We've talked about a lot of movies here today, and if I'm being honest, I'm running late for something, I gotta go. So, voila! Those are some of the most metal movies of all time. A lot of really metal movies here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with these movies? Do you agree that Mad Max, Terminator, Alien, Nosferatu, The Lord of the Rings, that these are metal? Do you disagree? Are there other movies that we should check out, that we should talk about, not just because they're metal, but because they're potentially really cool and fun and good, and well made, and have something interesting to say and offer? Then tell me. Let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, join us on Discord, and as always, y'all have yourself a fantastic fucking day.